Do you see it? It's supposed to be on.
It shows on mine live on Facebook. I don't.
Okay, can you see us? Can you see it? Do you see us? Are we live?
I do. Oh.
Are we live on Facebook?
It says at the top, Tanya, that we're live on Facebook. I'm not sure.
But I can't see.
I can see everybody.
No, I mean on Facebook.
Oh. It says live on Facebook on here.
All righty, here we are. Now we are seeing things.
All right.
Good.
Okay, you guys, thank you all so much for joining. Unfortunately, we were having a few tech issues, but we do thank you all so much for joining us and hanging in there with us. Tonight, we have Mayor Jon Pavletic and Mr. Craig Fitzhugh. Again, thank you all so much for agreeing to be with us this evening.
Thank you.
So, to the viewers, good evening. The Lauderdale County Branch NAACP Civic Engagement Committee would like to thank all of you for joining us in this live streaming event. We would like for you all to know that following the form, and we had a plethora of questions, unfortunately, due to time, we could not present them all. So each candidate will receive a copy of all the questions submitted by the citizens of Ripley. Now, our moderator. Our moderator for the evening is a native of Humboldt, Tennessee. She began her professional career as a juvenile counselor, serving the Tipton County community for over 10 years. Her love for children soon took her career into another direction. Ms. Richardson started teaching at Brighton High School as a resource math teacher and soon became the special education consultant teacher. Her passion for working with students with special needs and behavior techniques superheaded her to establish the first autism team in Tipton County. The team mission was to educate parents, stakeholders, and teachers on autism and to develop strategies that would be helpful in the classroom. Ms. Richardson transitioned from Brighton High to Mumford Elementary in 2002 as assistant principal, and she held that position for 9 years. While in that position, she established great relationships with faculty, staff, and students. With hard work and dedication, Ms. Richardson became the principal of Mumford Elementary School for 8 years. During the 2019 and 2020 school year, Ms. Richardson became Tipton County's Principal of the Year and Tennessee's West Grand Division Principal of the Year. In July of this year, she started her new position as the pre-K through 5th grade Special Education Supervisor of Tipton County Schools. Ms. Richardson is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, an allocation committee member for the United Way of the Mid-South and chairperson of the Johnny P. Austin 5K Walk Run, which fights against domestic violence. Her proudest moment is being the mother of 4 beautiful children and a grandmother of a precious baby girl. At this time, we are now in the hands of our moderator for the evening, Miss Marissa Richardson.
Thank you so much, everyone, and good evening to everyone. I want to start off by saying thank you for that warm welcome, Ms. Tanya Beard, and the invitation from the Lauderdale County NAACP and the Civic Engagement Committee to participate in this important election forum. We thank both candidates in advance for their participation in tonight's forum and wish the best to each of you as you continue your campaign. Before we begin, let's introduce the candidates. The incumbent, Mayor Jon Pavletic, and the challenger, former state representative, Craig Fitzhugh. Mayor Jon Pavletic is a native of Chicago, Illinois. Upon graduating from high school, he received a 4-year football scholarship to attend Western Illinois University, where he earned a BS degree. He later earned a MA degree from Morgan State and an MED from then Memphis State University. After moving to Ripley, Mr. Pavletic and his wife Deanna spent 30 years educating and coaching children at Ripley High School. He served as principal of Ripley High School for 10 years until his retirement in 1999. Mr. Pavletic was alderman for the city of Ripley from 1988 to 2004. Currently, he has served Ripley as city mayor since 2004. His proudest accomplishments have been UT Martin Ripley Center, downtown renovations, state-of-the-art family fitness center, and a new fire station. Future aspirations for the citizens of Ripley include improving the standards of living through education and employment. Mr. Craig Fitzhugh says that Ripley is and always will be home. He and his wife Pam grew up raising their children, built a business, and plan to spend the rest of their lives in Ripley. For more than 25 years, Mr. Fitzhugh represented Ripley in the State House. He was, he says, the honor of a lifetime. Mr. Fitzhugh worked hard representing Ripley, and he delivered results, securing grant dollars from the state to rebuild the square and the Washington Street corridor, getting more opportunities for education and job training with a new UT Martin Ripley Center, and more funding and programs for Tennessee College of Applied Technology, TCAT, and together with county leaders and the private sector, helping keep a local hospital open, making sure workers were paid and the community could access quality care. A few of Mr. Fitzhugh's aspirations for the citizens of Ripley include empowering neighborhood through grant to community groups and investment in public works. Mr. Craig Fitzhugh. Prior to the questions and answer portion of tonight's forum, each candidate will be asked to present his platform statement. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to do so. Mayor Pavletic, you will go first, and then challenger Mr. Craig Fitzhugh. Following the platform statement, I will read the pre-selected questions, which were developed by Ripley citizens, and each candidate will be asked to answer each question. Earlier, a coin was tossed to determine who answered the first question and who will make their closing remarks first. Mayor Pavletic, you will answer the first question. After the first question, each candidate will be given an alternate turn when answering the questions. Mr. Fitzhugh, you will make your closing remark first. Are there any questions?
No, ma'am. The only thing I'd say, my last name is Pavletic.
Sorry, Pavletic. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Let us begin. Mayor Pavletic, you may present your platform.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Ripley branch of the NAACP for hosting this forum. I have been a member of the Ripley branch for many years. During my tenure as mayor, I've promoted Ripley and its people in many ways. From the standpoint of aesthetics, the downtown has been beautified, from the courthouse to each building having a new facade, parking features, and a water feature. Washington Street and Cleveland Street have been improved with islands and landscaping. Amenities have been added, such as the Family Fitness Center, the new park, and the new fire station. From the education standpoint, we have a 4-year college, UT Martin Ripley Center, that offers several degrees and a new MBA program. Future road projects include improvements to Bowles Road and the addition of a Super 2-lane to Haywood County. When recruiting new industry and business, these factors are considered as the most important. Our industrial sites have been certified by the state of Tennessee as shovel-ready, which means they are prepared for immediate occupancy. We have received several grants to make them shovel-ready. Ripley is a member of HTL Advantage, which is an economic recruitment organization that is a recruiter of industrial prospects. Ripley currently has more diversity in department heads, employees, and board membership than it has never had before. The city is financially sound. My body of work is there. What I stand for and promote is evident. I don't have to say what I will do. I have done it. I am in tune with the residents of this great city. I will continue to work for Ripley and its people full time. I am retired and committed to be a full-time hands-on mayor as I have been. We are not finished. I will work hard to continually improve the lifestyle of Ripleyans. I have helped people all my life, from my years at Ripley High School until now. I will not stop doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. Mr. Fitzhugh, you may present your platform.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Richardson. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be here along with Ms. Beard and the NAACP committee of Ripley. It's a strong committee and it does forward-thinking things for our community. And I'm happy to be here with my friend, Mayor Pavletic. Both of our names are a little hard to get sometimes. So Coach Kelly used to call me Fitzhugh all the time. So that's good. But I'm supposed to answer the question about my platform. Well, my platform is not about me. It's not about what I've done or things like that. It's about you and everybody in this town. It is what you want Ripley to be in the future. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? What do you want to do better? What are the bad things that you want to take out of our town? That's the thing we need to find out what citizens want and move on it. And I've been touched every house in this city, and I really enjoy doing it. It made me feel good at times, a lot of times. They're good people here. And it made me feel not so good at times when I see the condition of some of our housing, the condition of some of the atmosphere in our town. I just think we can all do better with that. And I want to try to do that. I learned from talking to citizens that jobs are on their mind. We know this COVID epidemic is going to hurt communities like us. Small towns in Tennessee are going to have to do more than just try to survive. We're going to have to thrive. And we do that by better jobs and by better education and by having a good place that people want to come to and live. I think the first thing that I would like to do is find out from people what their priorities are. But I think I've lived here all my life, so I know pretty well. But I want to make sure that we have good broadband, good high-speed internet that every child can afford and their parents can get it for them, and even their parents, so that we can have a level playing field as it has to do with jobs. That is the thing that will help us more than anything. And that, in my opinion, is the most reachable thing we have now. We have to work on making our community look better. We need to have pride in it. We do, but when it looks better and somebody passes through here, hey, they just might decide to live and have their family here. We have great amenities and they can only be better. And then, of course, we need to have safe cities as well. We need to make sure that Ripley is a place where people can, sit out on their porch and not worry about being harmed or or having some type of problem comes to them and their community. We want us to be a happy community that just doesn't strive, but thrives. I'm ready to do that. I think I have some contacts that I've gotten along the way that we can move Ripley forward. And with your help, we can build on what has already come past, and we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Now, each candidate will answer the pre-selected questions with three-minute responses. We will begin with Mayor Pavletic. With the steady increase in COVID cases in our community, how do you see your role as city mayor in providing leadership to assist the county and state in migrating COVID-19 as related to health, safety, and the economy? And I'll read it again. With the steady increase in COVID-19 cases in our community, how do you see your role as city mayor in providing leadership to assist the county and state in migrating COVID-19 as related to health, safety, and the economy?
Well, the first thing would be by example. The experts are telling us that we need to socially distance. They're telling us that we need to wear masks. We need to be cautious in all our activities. We don't need to congregate in large groups. We don't need to have groups of more than 50. So from the health standpoint, being healthy is a lifestyle that example sets. If people see me in the community as mayor, not being involved using a face mask, not socially distancing in large crowds, that wouldn't be a good example from my standpoint. Also, from the community, I have close working relationship with the county mayor and his mandate in regard to wearing masks in the county and in buildings and places of residence. He conferred with the mayors of the 3 towns and the city of Ripley, and I agreed with him on that aspect. I think that it's the best thing that can be done from that standpoint, and also the social distance standpoint. And going back to example, I think if you're a good example of what you're trying to do, that is the best thing that can be done for our citizens. And I do that.
Thank you, Mayor Pavletic. Mr. Fitzhugh, I will ask you the same question, and I will read it twice. The steady increase in COVID-19 cases in our community, how do you see your role as city mayor in providing leadership to assist the county and state in migrating COVID-19 as related to health, safety, and the economy? And I'll read it one more time for you, okay? With the steady increase in COVID-19 cases in our community, how do you see your role as city mayor in providing leadership to assist the county and state in migrating COVID-19 as related to health, safety, and the economy?
Thank you. This is a very serious thing, and we must believe it. I'll interject this. Just today, we found out that my daughter Elizabeth and her husband Chaz, who live in Colombia, have the COVID virus. So it is real, folks. It is not fake. It is not a political situation. And we need to not pay attention to the politicians, and we need to pay attention to the experts. I had hoped that our governor at the state level would have taken the command and moved to do what our county mayor did and say that these masks work. They are things we can do, and let's do it. And I think that's the right approach, and I would certainly support that and certainly support going forward, because it's a serious thing, and it could not only devastate us from a physical standpoint, but from a financial standpoint too. And it's my duty as the mayor, if I am elected, to do all I can to protect our citizens by following the law and doing what is right, not what is politically correct or expedient. This is something that we're going to have to put a lot of emphasis on, and we're going to have to do everything in our power to take this small step. Think about it just a minute. Just put on that mask. You know, you put on your seatbelt, and we gladly do that. You know, when you go to the airport, they make you take almost all your clothes off sometimes, and you do that. So taking that mask and putting it across your face, not just to protect you, but more importantly, to protect that neighbor of yours who has those rights just as well. So let's just think about that. Let's don't get upset with each other and all that, but let's make sure we protect our fellow man and our neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. The second question goes to you, Mr. Fitzhugh, and I will read it twice. Many citizens express concern for what is seen as systemic racial inequalities in the city hiring and terminating practices. Would you be willing to establish a task force to identify and propose recommendations for inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices? I'll read it one more time for you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Many citizens express concern for what is seen as systematic racial inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices. Would you be willing to establish a task force to identify and propose recommendations for inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices?
As a matter of fact, one of the things that I've talked about in the administration, if I'm lucky enough to be mayor of this town, is to do just that. It was on a little broader basis with the committee from throughout the community to tackle several issues, but certainly that was one of them. I think the situation with earlier that happened earlier this year brought to the forefront that we have inequalities there. There is absolutely no question about it. And before we have a situation in our town that makes national news or something like that, we need to make sure that we have the right procedures in place, we have the right leadership in place, and we have the right reasons for doing what we do in place. And I think it's very necessary that we do that proactively before we have to do it as a result of some tragedy.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Mr. Pavletic, I'll
Yes,
ask you the
ma'am.
same question,
Yes,
and I will
ma'am.
read it twice.
Yeah.
Okay. Many citizens express concerns what is seen as systematic racial inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices. Would you be willing to establish a task force to identify and propose recommendations for inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices? And I will read it one more time for you. Many citizens express concern for what is seen as systematic racial inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices. Would you be willing to establish a task force to identify and propose recommendations for inequalities in the city's hiring and terminating practices?
The first thing I would say is I would be willing to establish a task force. I have a disagreement with systemic policies in regard to hiring and letting employees go. Employees have an appeal process in the city of Ripley. On a termination, they can appeal a process where their case is heard by the entire board and a decision is made from that standpoint and the standpoint of what the department head has proposed to the city board. In my opening statement, I said there was more diversity in the city of Ripley. There had never been a minority department head prior to me being the mayor. We have minority department heads. We have diversity in our departments from the standpoint of each department. So I think everything at this point is fair and equitable to everybody. And I wouldn't see it any other way.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic.
Okay.
We'll go on to the third question, and we'll begin with you, Mr. Pavletic. I will
Okay.
read the question twice.
Okay.
What are your plans to control litter and blight and tearing down old houses and buildings in the city's communities? I'll read it one more time. What are your plans to control litter and blight and tearing down old houses and buildings in the city communities?
Well, first of all, people tell you they want to work. You employ them and they end up being late to work or not showing up. We have a problem keeping employees in our public works department. With what we have, we do the best job that we can from the litter and blight standpoint. We remove houses that need to be removed. Of course, there is a cost to that from what we have to pay to go to the landfill for the debris that's taken off of a lot. But we address that as much as we can with the people we have. When we advertise for some of these jobs, we used to have a lot of applications for these jobs. Now, the job applications are not as plentiful as they used to be. So we do the best job that we can, and we will continue to do that. And the litter and blight is addressed on a daily basis, and buildings that are brought to my attention, we try to deal with immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. Mr. Fitzhugh, you will now have a third question. I will read it twice.
Right.
What are your plans to control litter and blight and tearing down old houses and buildings in the city community? I'll answer it again. Ask that question again.
You can go ahead and answer if you want to.
I don't know if I can answer that one. What are your plans to control the litter and blight and tearing down old houses and buildings in the city's communities?
This is very important to me for a lot of reasons. I know we're not the richest town in the world. We're not. I used to say to my colleague in the legislature who lived in Williamson County, I'd trade my tax base for yours anytime. We don't have the funding that we need to do something like Williamson County does. But we have pride in our community, and people pay taxes expecting the litter to be picked up, the garbage to be picked up correctly. We've got a great street department and great people that work for us. But sometimes we just need to make sure that the programming and planning is correct, where we can do the things we need to have a presentable town, which makes people a little more proud of their community, which makes people a little more proud of their property, which allows them to take better care of it. And if they want to sell it, they get more money for it. It also means when people come into our house, to our city, and they want to, they come here because they like the way it looks initially. And we can improve the values of the property. We can improve the wages for our people in their property. And the city standpoint, if the problem is we can't get good people to work, we might ought to think about making sure that they're compensated well for those tough jobs that we expect them to do as taxpayers. It is a critical issue for our city. I've seen towns that are just like us that are neat, clean, and really welcoming. And there's no more welcoming city than ours. We just need to show it. It will be a primary, it'll be at the top of my part of the platform. And I think people that I've talked to agree with that. That's one of the things that comes up mostly. Now, you can't keep people from littering, but I think if people have a little more pride and they know, hey, if I throw that Coke can out of there, I might get fined, or at least, I might look like I'm dirtying up my town. So I think it makes a difference. It's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. We will go on to the next question, and we will begin with you, Mr. Fitzhugh. What will you do to improve infrastructure, spending, and home rehabilitation in East Ripley neighborhoods that are largely African American? And I will read it again. What would you do to improve infrastructure, spending, and home and rehabilitation in East Ripley neighborhoods that are largely African Americans?
This is a problem. This is a problem because, again, we're not Williamson County, and folks have trouble maintaining their properties, and they need some assistance. There's assistance available out there. We need to reach for it. I understand state government. I understand where those funds could come from, and a little help up, a little partnership between the city and the state, and even some of the local businesses that can help with people having a little better standard of living in their home. I walk to every house, and Ripley is a proud town. People are proud. They try their best to take care of their property, but sometimes they just don't have the means. And the other thing is property ownership is an important thing. If people own that property, they just tend to take a little better care of it. And we need to work toward ways that people can own their own home, where they can have a job that gives them enough income so that they can provide that roof over the head of their family. And that house is that they own and they're paying for. It's again, it's the American dream, and we can have it in Ripley. I think I can do things if I'm elected mayor to assist in that, and we can find the programs that help our citizens in their need.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Mr. Pavletic, what will you do to improve infrastructure spending and home rehabilitation in East Ripley neighborhoods that are largely African Americans? And I will read it one more time. What will you do to improve infrastructure spending and home rehabilitation in East Ripley neighborhoods that are largely African Americans?
Thank you. I kind of go along with Mr. Fitzhugh. I have walked a good portion of Ripley several times over several years. I hadn't walked every neighborhood or every house yet this election. I will before it's over with. Most of the residents in this town are former students of mine or former parents of students of mine. So I have as much pride to see that the infrastructure in African American communities is what it needs to be in every community, in every neighborhood in the city of Ripley. We try to address issues from the standpoint of paving of roads to make sure the roads are in good shape in all our neighborhoods. We've applied for grants to help and programs to help us from the city government standpoint to help individuals in different neighborhoods in the African American community. But I have as much pride as Mr. Fitzhugh was talking about in regard to Ripley, and I have as much in my heart to help these homeowners because they're all, like I said, former students or parents of former students. So I have a connection, and I know some of the living conditions need to be improved, and it can continually be improved from a standpoint of all of us working together to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. We'll now move to the next question, and we will begin with you, Mr. Pavletic. What is your plan for attracting businesses and keeping industries that will entice our young people to stay after high school and or college, as well as attract others to the community? And I'll read it one more time. What is your plan for attracting businesses and keeping industries that will entice our young people to stay after high school and or college, as well as attract others to the community?
Well, as a former full-time educator spending 30 years at Ripley High School, and I've been an adjunct professor at Dyersburg State and UT Martin Ripley Center, education is the key. We have to educate our young people in order for them to have any kind of future at all. That would be the starting point. We have the facility after high school. We have a four-year college here now that offers several degrees, and we're going to implement a master's degree program in the fall, an MBA program. We've got Tennessee College of Applied Technology that trains jobs that need to be placed in these different industry and factories here. We will continue to apply for grants to improve our infrastructure, to bring prospects in here to look at our community and see what our infrastructure is. We have utilities that are adequate or more than adequate for our industrial sites. Our industrial sites are state certified. We have gotten as many grants as any community in this state. For one of our industrial sites, we, matter of fact, got 2 grants to improve it, to make it shovel ready. So we are doing everything we can from the education standpoint to the infrastructure standpoint to recruiting and keeping our young people in town and providing them with good jobs that they can prosper and raise a family and have a decent household.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. Mr. Fitzhugh, what is your plan for attracting businesses and keeping industries that would entice our young people to stay after high school and or college, as well as attract others to the community? And I'll read it one more time. What is your plan for attracting businesses and keeping industries that will entice our young people to stay after high school and or college, as well as attract others to the community?
Well, it can't just be my plan. It has to be the community's plan, but I think it does have to be a multifaceted plan. I think you hit the nail on the head that this, in fact, is the biggest challenge, short-term and long-term, to our community. What can we do to keep our young people from either getting their education here and leaving, or going and getting their education somewhere and never coming back? We are making progress, and fortunately, I've been a part of it for the last 20 years with our TCAT. More funding there. We're lucky in Ripley to have one of 26 TCATs in the whole state. The UT Center is just doing super, and as Mayor Pavletic said, we can now offer an MBA right here in this town. Plus, we have the ability to have the TCAT, which can give us the labor force that we need for our industry. We have a great industrial base now. We just need to build upon it. We're very diversified, and we've weathered through these pandemics and these recessions fairly well. But the next thing we have to do is give these young folks a place where they want to live. And we need to reach out to them to see what they need in housing, what they need in recreation, what they need in sort of off-duty activities after their work is over. What do they like? We have some amenities here, some better than any town in West Tennessee, and we don't have some amenities here that we need to keep those young people here. So it's a multifaceted approach. It will work best if we partner with local businesses, local industry, and our state and federal government to try to bring all that together. And I think that's what I really would like to try to do. I've done this for a long time, and I know how these pieces fit. And there was nothing that would mean more to me than when I leave this place, that I leave this hometown of mine, where my dad was the mayor and my granddaddy was the mayor, in better shape, where people will come to it. And we just have a little problem because we're running out of room. We're running out of, we don't have a place to put a new movie theater or something like that. That would make me happy.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. We'll now move to the next question. And this question will go to you, Mr. Fitzhugh, to answer first. Do you feel there is need to be improved? I'm sorry, let me read it again.
Okay.
Do you feel there's needs to be improvement in training and performance standards of our law enforcement regarding racial interaction? And let me read that one more time, okay? You feel that there's improvement that's needed in training and performance standards of our law enforcement regarding racial interactions? Well,
I certainly do. And I think that feeling was just amplified by what we've seen in our country here recently, in the Floyd case, and some of those that are just sort of really outrageous. And like I answered in part of an answer to another question before, we need to make sure that we are adequately trained. And before this happens to us, we need to make sure that we know what to do. And, I don't think some of the terms that are used are very descriptive, but we need to make sure that our police folks are just not weaponized and go out to do things like that. We need to make sure that we have a force in our community that takes care of situations when people have drug concerns, nonviolent concerns, some addictions. We can do much more in that regard when they have spousal abuse, things like that, which is very dangerous. And unfortunately, we're really high in that in this area of our particular state, and things like that are not in the quote traditional law enforcement method. And I think our our officers, our police department, our social services do a good job at that. But yes, I think it's brought to bear. And, and we're a community of 50-50, basically black and white. We need to understand that we have to and should. We're all brothers and sisters, and we all live together, and we need to be inclusive, and we need to make sure that we understand each other when we take on the responsibility of governing and public safety.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Mr. Pavletic, do you feel there is a need for improvement in training and performance standards of our law enforcement regarding racial interactions? And I'll read it one more time, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel there is a need for improvement in training and performance standards of our law enforcement regarding racial interactions?
Of course, I think there's always room for improvement, whether it's law enforcement or any other aspect of our life. We are required, first of all, to meet the state standards in regard to law enforcement. We have standards here in the city of Ripley that are above and beyond what the state requires. We have training on a continual basis. We have diversity in our police department that I feel we meet the needs of our citizens from the diversity standpoint. We have an African-American department head that sees issues from his standpoint, that relays this to his men on his department, whether they're lieutenants or whether they're patrolmen in the city. But kind of like Mr. Fitzhugh said, what we've seen on a national basis is awful scary, and there needs to be improvement from the standpoint, although I feel we have a good department and we have good men in our department, and they're committed, and women in our department, and are committed to provide safety and do the best that they can for our citizens here in the city of Ripley. But for improving, yes, we can improve. I can improve. Everything can improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. This concludes our forum. At this time, we will take a moment to allow you to make your 2-minute closing remark. And we will begin with Mr. Fitzhugh.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very, very much for a great job, Ms. Richardson. I appreciate you asking those questions to each of us, so at least I could remember when I was second. But I do, and I think they were great questions. I tell you, I think they came from the public, and that shows me that the public knows what the issues are. And I will certainly take that into consideration if I'm lucky enough to be your mayor. And I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for mayor. And there's a feeling that this is something that I would like to do. And I think that maybe over these years, maybe this is what I was supposed to do in my mind. So we'll see what the voters think, but I am looking forward. I had such a great time walking the streets of Ripley, back where the house where my mother was born, and the house where I grew up. And neither one of them are frankly in very good shape. And it's sort of sad. And we need to improve things like that. We have some beautiful, this is not, in West Tennessee, it's not flat. Let me tell you, this town is full of hills, and they're beautiful hills. They're beautiful vistas that you can watch from almost any place, even in some of our housing units for Ripley Housing Authority. This is a special place, and I want to make sure that it's more than just survives as special to look back someday, but thrives as special for those in the future, especially our children, our grandchildren, and folks who may not want that city life anymore and want to come up and have a real quality of life that has all the amenities that any town could offer. So I urge you to do something tomorrow. Let's vote. Early voting starts tomorrow. And it's a good time to get out there where you won't be close to folks and get that voting done. And also know that you still have an opportunity to vote the absentee, which is broadened this year because of the COVID virus. So make sure you vote. Make sure you vote in this election, and make sure you vote in every election. It is important. It makes a difference. I appreciate the opportunity that the NAACP has given me. I appreciate my friend Jon Pavletic, and I appreciate those of you who are listening tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzhugh. Mr. Pavletic, you can now begin your 2-minute closing remarks.
Thank you. I will reiterate some of the things that Mr. Fitzhugh said. The first thing I would like to say is I want to thank Mr. Fitzhugh. I think we have run a clean race. I don't think there's been anything that's been negative about it. You've campaigned and I've campaigned, and I applaud you on that. And I've enjoyed it. I think the questions have been challenging. I think the questions covered a wide variety of subjects. Can we improve? Absolutely, in all aspects. There's no question about that. But my body of work speaks for itself. I've been mayor for 4 terms now. What I've done is out there. It's evident. We have brought in over $18 million in grant money and tax money that has come from our downtown renovation for our area around the square in downtown and down Washington Street. So that is one of the things that is high on my list. Of course, education and training will continue to be a priority. Being a retired full-time educator, and my wife was a first grade teacher 39 years. So we have touched just about everybody in this community from that standpoint. I'm a hands-on mayor. I'll put this in there. I went to Croatia last year to see where my daddy was born. When I was in Croatia, I was getting calls from Ripley dealing with issues here. So if there's such a thing as a hands-on mayor, I think that would be the answer to that. I'm proud of the diversity that we have in this community from the standpoint of all of our departments, the department heads and employees. The city is financially sound. And I think, in fact, I know we've got more amenities to attract industry and prospective jobs in the future and keep our young people here and do what needs to be done to make this a vibrant community. Deanna and I settled here 51 years ago, and we made this our home. We had no connections to Ripley, but this is where we picked, and this is our home, and this is where we will reside the rest of our lives. And I want to thank the NAACP for this opportunity in this forum. And once again, Mr. Fitzhugh and Ms. Richardson for what you have done, and Ms. Tanya Beard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pavletic. This has truly been an evening of great information. We have heard from some of Ripley's finest seeking to lead and direct. Thank you, and best wishes to you both. I want to say a special thanks again to Lauderdale County NAACP and the Civic Engagement Committee for planning this virtual mayoral forum as a public service to this community. And to you, the voters, thank you for watching this virtual forum. Share with others what you have learned tonight, and remember to vote and encourage others to do the same. Early voting starts tomorrow, July 17th. It has been my pleasure. Thank you, and good night to all.
Thank you.